And I guess, the feeling that I had as we was kind of talking, it was a good conversation. When I was dealing with just the midst of my situation, I felt like life had no meaning at that point. Mm-hmm. That's how heavy marriage and commitment is when you have your teeth sunk into something. The idea of it going away was it just not, the thought had never entered my mind of it going away. Mm-hmm. I think that was the biggest thing for me, trying to deal with that. That's why I feel it's so important that, we don't take, marriage lightly. As the millennial young people that's gonna be the leaders, as we talked about in the last episode. And Zam was supposed to be here, but we ain't gonna go there. What's up, Zam? And what's up, y'all, to the viewing audience? How y'all doing? We're just having a conversation. I wanted to continue the conversation, but I felt the weight of a generation on my back when I was going through the depression. Mm-hmm. So I didn't talk. I just talked to people about, I was going through depression, but there was things that were happening while I was going through the depression. And I talked about last week how I, lost my faith in God completely, and the things were just, I was questioning. But there was another time that persisted further when I began to dialogue with God about why am I here? The question was, it was relevant at the moment because I could not find meaning. I remember when it first happened, I lost grip with reality. I was just trying to find it and touch it. I couldn't touch it. I was like, where is it? Like, what is the meaning of my life? And it was frustrating, Ebony. It was just a diabolical rotation of nothingness. I felt like I was in a desert. But, as time went on, God revealed certain things to me, what I would be doing, the generations and people that I would impact from me having to sit back and be in the darkness, learn how to be patient. And it wasn't like mystical or God was like, Steve, do this. Nah, it wasn't that. So let's get that out of the way. It was none of that. It was just God putting me in situations, showing me. And one of the biggest things that, Ebony, one of the lessons I've learned is why I wasn't moving. I was in motion, but I wasn't making progress. I wasn't blooming where I was planted. Hardest thing to do. To bloom where you're planted. Because sometimes when God is nurturing your gift, you get frustrated. That is the start and stop season that people have. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes I think the enemy wants to dissolve your uniqueness. And that's what happens in society now on internet. Ebony, you got to give. You do things. You want to create content or you want to do whatever is relevant. But you look outside and you see 40 different people doing sort of a version of what you're doing. And what that does is I'm sorry, Tim told me to put my hand down. What that does is it water down your uniqueness. So you think that I'm not an original copy, so you just stop. And I think a lot of us battle that.
I think the word is it seemingly waters down
yes.
your uniqueness. And the analogy that I have shared with KJ is typically you make a sandwich with 2 pieces of bread, mm-hmm. the ingredients in between. Now, through the evolution of time, we might do a wrap. We might get some ciabatta bread, some rye bread. But the recipe in and of itself
yes.
is still the same.
Absolutely.
And not only that, every household has the classic ingredient.
Yes.
The bread, the loaf of bread.
Yes.
And the ingredients for in between.
100%.
And so just because something is familiar or seemingly common, sometimes there is an appreciation for what's classic, what's genuine,
yes,
what stays in its lane.
Yes.
And so if you are in your lane, it doesn't matter if there's other people in that lane. If you are being true to your uniqueness,
yes,
if you're being true to your gifts and your talents, people are going to appreciate you for who you are. It's when you try to go outside of that
that's a fact,
and deviate
you cooking.
and be something that you truly aren't, that people can also see that it's not real.
Absolutely.
And so they don't resonate with it. So the best thing you can do is truly to stay in your lane. It's as simple as it said.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do.
Absolutely. And be patient in your lane. I think that's critical at this juncture in our life, is to be if you're truly gifted in what you're doing, if you know that you have the capability and the tools to do it, you will be sustained. Every gift, every talent that is manifested or given by God has to go through a process of maturation. And that we talk about it real smooth and sweet and like we're saying a good line, but really that's excuse me, that's freaking hard, man. It is difficult. That time I told you, when I was dealing with what I was dealing with, and this is not I was just so hurt. I just never been there before. I've never known agony. I've never known agony. I've never had the pleasure of being in the company of agony. I had pain before, heartaches, but agony was different. It was just one of those things to where you couldn't get out of it. You couldn't move from it. You know what I mean? My gift at that point, because God needed to sit me down because of the starting, the stopping, the inconsistency, I thought I was being authentic. I thought I was being myself, but the truth be told, I don't think I really knew who I was. I think I wanted to be something because sometimes we can get popularized. Sometimes we see things, we want to be other things, but being yourself is at a premium right now. Yeah. I think that, that being stated, even in our marriages, even in the people that we choose to live our life with, I think that's where authenticity has to live.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes that's what makes marriage hard, when we don't understand our role in a marriage, whether that's because of societal expectations or maybe we've chosen wrong.
Yes.
Because I think we said this last week, if I'm weak in the area, that's the area I need you to be strong in.
Yeah.
So then I go out there and I find somebody just like me. We both trying to operate in the same lane.
Absolutely.
That's not going to work. And then again, like I said, with societal norms, we have this idea of what's a role for a man, what's a role for a woman. And, I think what that is looks different for everybody.
Yes.
But you have to be in a relationship where you are mature enough to recognize the roles that are needed and communicate those roles.
Yeah.
And that's what don't happen.
No.
We just, again, we go into it like, I'm going to be Rapunzel. You're going to be Prince Charming. I'm going to let down my hair. You're going to climb up. You're going to rescue me. And we're going to live happily ever after. But that ain't the reality.
That ain't the reality. That's not the reality of life. You know, I think sometimes happiness has become the enemy of man now, because it leads to nowhere. God never told you to be happy. God said joy. Happiness and joy are not the same thing. They're not. And I think that's where we err when we equate a happy marriage, or I want a happy marriage. You'll get happy in marriage sometimes. Yeah. Life don't work that way. People go to work Ebony, you're tired right now. Yeah. You was at work all day. You just told me you cleaned up. You're a branch manager, and you just told me you cleaned up, throw up. Then when you got off work, you had to go to KJ's orientation, they didn't stop orientation, by the way. I don't know why I hate I hated it when I was a kid. I hated it as a parent. And orientation, and then you had to go home, you were tired, and then you had to come here and sit with me. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's a lot. Right. How are you going to be Rapunzel after all of that? Like, how do you go home and do what a wife's supposed to do after? That's a critical question. How does a person that does that? Remember last week, let's go off the thing. Let's build on the foundation. Mm-hmm. We can't go back. Right. We're not going back. Let's set the foundation. There's no more traditional nothing. We are creating a tradition. The foundation is God always and love, but now women operate differently and men operate differently. How do you be a wife, Ebony? Like, okay, let's take example for today, right? How do you go home now to your husband and be what he needs you to be?
Honestly,
or vice versa too. Go ahead.
One, I have a really good husband. So when my husband is a husband, it allows me to be a wife.
That's good.
So when I am tired, oftentimes I don't have to come home and be like, oh, I'm so exhausted, I'm so tired. He reads me. You know what I'm saying? He reads my body language. He reads my response to KJ and AJ. And based off of how he reads me, he was like, oh, she's tired today. So then he does things to help me. And so when he does things to help me kind of relinquish some of the weight of my day, it allows me to then, in return, respond to him in kind.
That's good.
And do things that's going to make his work day easier for the next day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's really a reciprocal thing.
Yeah.
But him as the lead, when he operates in his lane, I cascade in mine.
What if he doesn't? How do you handle it? Like, because it's inevitable sometimes that our mate can go long periods of time without doing that. You can hit good periods. How do you mitigate the periods to where he doesn't respond the way you want him to respond?
So I will say that this is something that came through time, because I'm a complainer.
At least you tell the truth.
Like, I like to complain. Like, it makes me feel better. Like, whatever the situation is, I complain about it a little bit to a couple people, and then, I feel better about it.
That's good.
So I had to learn to not complain so much, because I would complain to him. In all honesty, maybe complain about him, and I was creating or adding to what I didn't want, by doing so. And so I know this sound like textbook and it sounds real churchy, but it is the honest truth. I have learned to pray about it. When I don't feel he is operating on all cylinders for whatever reason it could be, I really pray about it. And I said this last week, and I'll say it again because it is 100% true. I have found that whenever I pray about him for God to do something, make him operate or move different, God challenged me. So I said all that to say, if he perhaps gets out of his place and out of his role, it don't mean I get to get out of mine. I still have to stay in mine. I still have to keep doing the hard thing. I still have to keep pouring into him the same way. And eventually things realign.
They do. And I think that's what you said at the end was things naturally happen when you keep in alignment with the goal at hand. That's why you have to keep going at anything in life, not just marriage. Any obstacle endeavor that you take on, you keep going because things will fall into place. Now, how that looks for you may be different. Sometimes what we envision and what's going to actually happen in your life can be different contrasts. It could be totally different. But I believe sometimes when things naturally happen, it ends up being better than what you envisioned. You know what I mean? So, that is, marriage is, like we said, it's a sacrifice.
It is.
It is a sacrifice. And I think that springboards other parts of your life. When you go to work, you make sacrifices like clean up, throw up.
Lord have mercy. Listen,
first of all, what happened? Let me pause for a second. What happened?
So it was a mother, a daughter, and a sister. And I was setting an appointment for one of my bankers for tomorrow with the sister.
Yeah.
The older sister. And so as I'm doing it, I look over and the mother and the daughter go outside of the branch. And one of my bankers said, "Do you know it's throw up outside the door?" I said, "Say what?" So I stopped what I was doing and I look, and it's literally like you can't open the door without stepping in it. So I was like, "Can you just go get the wet floor sign, put it over it?" So I just went to the janitor closet. I filled up a bucket with hot water. I found some kind of cleaning solution that was back there and poured it in the bucket. And yeah, I was out there gagging and getting it up. I mean, like sweeping it with the water. Yeah, so.
And I cannot believe you were out there doing that.
Me either, because I don't like to clean up my children throw up, much less this stranger who is really an adult and should have tried to get to the grass or something. That's fine. But you know what? One of my bankers said to me that made me feel better. And it also ties into our conversation. She was like, I saw you with the mop bucket. She said, I didn't know what you was doing. She said, I thought you was just being a good servant leader. And so it made me feel better because that's the kind of leader I want to be.
Yeah.
I want to be a leader that's also a servant.
Absolutely.
And when you think about marriage, you do have to be in servitude.
Absolutely.
To the marriage itself, whatever that looks like.
Absolutely. That was the whole point of Christ, to serve with power. I have the ultimate power, but I'm going to use the greatest power. The greatest power Christ ever used was serving.
Yep.
That's what nurtures people. It is that, and that is one of the core principles of marriage, is serving. Now, my marriage didn't get the outcome I wanted, but what I did get from it is serving, is being a servant leader. That means that whatever my ambitions are, whatever my desires are, do they align or do they take away from the family abundance? Does it take away from the family's abundance? Because nothing comes before the family.
Yeah.
I think that's what we need to first settle in on and really stick our teeth in, especially our people. Because again, look at our divorce rate. Look at things that are happening in our community. Nothing is bigger than the family. Know that. I mean, that's one of the things that I admire you and why I want you to be a part of this conversation, because when you talk about it, it is not just, you didn't get that type of being a wife from just happenstance. Your family was a tremendous part of that growth. You had your father in your life. Let's just be honest. That is a plus. That's a plus. Fatherlessness fatherlessness hurt me as a male. So it ain't just women without fathers.
Right.
It's males too. I had no direction. You did. And that's not a comparison. It just shows you the importance of having the family infrastructure in place and what it does for future generations. Because your mom and daddy sustained for 35 years plus through this, that, and this, it allows you to now walk in and understand you're not walking into a everyday fairy tale. Now, don't get me wrong. It can be a fairy tale sometimes. Yeah. But what ends up being your fairy tale is your appreciation for your person, appreciation for what they've given you. Y'all have given each other children. Y'all have given each other a space to live. Y'all have given each other life and hope. And when you want to go to the supermarket, y'all have a family day. Just going out with your family on a family day, that is freaking amazing. I'm not going to say I took it for granted, but I didn't see the totality of its importance in marriage and what it binds you together when you see a family eating together here at maybe Steak and Shake, or they're eating together at Outback. Yeah. Like, those are the moments. They don't even got to be saying nothing. It's just that you're together. Those are the things that bind you, and watching how close-knit your family was, watching the sacrifice your parents made. There's a lot of other black people and people in this world that still stay together. I know we talk a lot about marriages being broken, but there's a lot of good marriages out here too as well. We got to balance the scales, in my opinion, sometimes when we have these conversations, because we can get so struggle frequent. We love talking about struggle, where we think we always got to be in the struggle for you. No, I think that's why I'm so happy that you got a good husband, because it's out there. Sometimes the internet will trick you into believing that we're out here wilding and everybody's breaking up. Don't get me wrong. Is there something in the water with separation and divorce going on? I believe that the enemy wants the families broken up. Absolutely. Because our power is in our family. Yeah. Look at, do you know how Tulsa was built? Families. It wasn't one person with a tremendous idea. No, you had a family who was a carpenter. Their family was able to sustain a great life being a carpenter because most people came to him. Then you had the doctor's office. Then you had the dentist's office. Then you had you had a sustainable community. So you didn't really need to have all this money in the bank, because I know that you're going to come to me and you're going to get your work done. That's going to sustain me and my family, and vice versa. that is why this conversation to me on another level is important, because we can rebuild Tulsa metaphorically, if you understand what I'm saying. We can rebuild Greenwood. We can rebuild all of these places that, and when I say Tulsa, I mean economic independence, spiritual independence. We think for ourselves. We control our community. Nobody dictates what we do. We have say-so. We create governments that we have advocacy. So if things happen in our community, we don't have to rely on popular media to serve our needs. And that's what's going on, even with the tyranny in the election and all of the things that are going on is we're individually thinking about this election versus it used to be family vote. You remember that? It used to be families would do this. It used to be we all come to an agreement where our mindset was about who was the best possible candidate for us. But now we have to do it individually. So now it's me versus you. Now you're this person thinking this way. You have family against family.
Families breaking up.
That's what I'm saying.
Household. Yeah.
You know, so that's why I think it's so many components, Ebony, to marriage that link to our either success or failure as a people. We're in critical stages right now. Right now, there's an imbalance in the church right now. We don't see that the same. We don't view that. There's so many spiritual avenues now that we don't have a solid foundation anywhere. Like I said earlier, economically, where are we there? Socially, where are we there? We barely even speak to each other. We go to clubs now, Ebony, and have just sections. Think about when we used to go out and how much fun we used to have. Girls dancing in the club, sweating. Like you know what was the real, Ebony? You know if you really had a mouthpiece, if you, man, walking up to that girl and asking her to dance. Either she was going to do this. Listen, if she start dancing and look behind her and she go back and keep dancing, my nigga, you got it. But boy, if she do that and she walk off, but then you had a chance to keep your dignity because you just walk on to the next girl. Yeah. But now we just go to clubs now, Ebony, and sit in sections. That's a result of us just wanting to look good. Let me get a section and shine on my own people. When marriages are thriving, families are together, people go out to speakeasies and dance, have fun, take their lady out. They value their lady even though the dope boys in the 90s, 70s, 80s, and the 90s were dope boys, you seen them with their lady. You seen it was a certain respect. There was a certain reverence. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I was telling my mom the other day, even going back to the church about reverence, like when dope boys would come on the church ground when we was, and they see my mom, I'm talking about the roughest guys. Everybody came play basketball at the gym too. Shut. No cuss words, nothing. Choir boys, because there was a reverence. Yeah. There was a respect for family. Because family doesn't just mean people in the house. It just means a community, knowing that this is what this represents. This represents integrity. This represents something. But I think we've lost that manner, man. And that's why as the millennial marriage persists on, what is going to be our foundational principle? How do we look at our women now? Do we treat our women right? You were talking about earlier before you got on camera, sometimes men just going to have to accept that there's a double standard. Women are going to be coddled and loved by society on the internet. Get over it. That's just what it is. There's double standards everywhere. Women could be dead wrong, and y'all are a lot. 100%.
Not a lot. Not a lot. I'm not going to give you that.
Listen, more than what you admit.
We might communicate it wrong. But often, we're right.
Y'all be right. Women be right sometimes, but y'all are delusional. And delusional is a good word.
Delusional is not a good word, but for me personally, I can admit I can be delusional.
Absolutely.
But not in the way that you're saying. Like,
I'm only saying delusional. I'm not.
Like, I'm delusional like, let's go to Paris tomorrow. That kind of delusional. Yeah. And Aaron's like, really back in. That's not feasible. That's kind of delusional I am.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's harder for women, not all women, but it's harder for women to be wrong and to say that they're wrong in a way where it's I apologize.
Of course.
Versus what we typically do is we're wrong and then we like we feed you or, you know, we have sex with you, but to just outright come and say, you know, I apologize, I was wrong. We don't do that enough.
No, you don't have to be though.
And you know,
because what is deterring your behavior? See, here's what men know about this. When men get consequences are introduced to young boys at an early age. Mm-hmm. We understand there's a decision made. If you do this, there's a consequence. Mm-hmm. My daughters are coddled. They are loved. They are hugged on. When they cry, they fully expect me to hug, and they'll cry until it's done. AJ, he gets love. But there is a certain amount that Aaron's going to accept at a certain age.
Yeah, just Aaron, not me, because
yeah,
I don't like.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Because you were coddled. You get what I'm saying? Like that's the double standard there. That's where men got to understand. I'm here for pain. I'm here for violence if necessary. I'm here to sacrifice my life for the woman, for God, because I am my daughters, and when I was married, or whoever I'm with, I consider myself a protector and a provider. Mm-hmm. That's what I consider myself. You don't have to accept my protection. Let's be that clear. You don't have to accept my provision. That's just what I see myself as. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the language of kind of transitioning, that we have that language gap of who's the leader, who's in charge. And again, you're a manager. You at a branch. How do you now go home and yield to quote unquote authority if you're going by the biblical definition of what marriage is?
Well, for me, it's not hard.
Yeah.
I don't want to use my brain.
You want to be brainless?
I want to be brainless. Like, you know, like you said, I am a leader.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was talking to Aaron about that today. I was like, when you have everybody in the branch asking you questions and coming to you, it's like you want, you know, you try to build a self-sufficient team, and that doesn't always happen, so it's frustrating.
For sure.
And then you go home, and it's mama, mama, mama. And my kids prefer me. I mean, you know, most kids, that's not uncommon. You know, they prefer their mom. And so somebody...
Not always, but I'm just kidding.
Most kids.
They do, I'm just kidding. Sort of.
But somebody always needing you and wanting you, that's a lot. So
it is.
Any opportunity that I get to be brainless, absolutely. So I know it can be hard for women who are in leadership, but for me it's not hard because I want to be soft. I told Aaron today, like, when you around, I don't know how to tie my shoe.
Help me.
I saw a lady cutting the grass. I was like, she's setting us back. If she don't put that lawnmower back in the garage, wait on her husband.
Because I think femininity on a woman is beautiful. I think that's, I think femininity can be wrapped in strength too as well. I think that's a misconception. Yeah. I don't think a woman has to choose. And I think strength is vulnerability.
Absolutely.
I think strength is not you coming at me. Mm-hmm. You can, we've always had great dialogue, and I've always came to you with things because you can tell me what I needed to hear without tearing me down. Mm-hmm. You never called me out. You always called me up. So, you know, I think there's so much to a feminine woman. I think when people see it, like, be soft and don't. No, you don't. I don't think you have to do that. I think, you know, because you definitely 100% aren't like that. But the fact that you can be that, and it's timing, I think. You can be yourself. Yeah. It's timing. Ebony, you're a natural bulldog.
Yeah, I am.
But timing, you can be a bulldog with me, Zim, Theo, and Don, but you don't need to be a bulldog with your husband.
Right.
Why? I don't want to see that. He don't want to see that. I don't want that as my woman. Now, if we out just, it is, I don't know you, fine. We can just do that. But there's a different, and I think that's what men think sometimes. I don't mind who you are away from me. But there's a certain cadence and a certain structure that I need from you on why I married you or why I'm with you in the first place. And I think we got to go back to the beginning sometimes when we get out of pocket, when we get deep into our relationships. You got to know why that person is with you to begin with, because they told you. Mm-hmm. That person told you. Yeah. Whether you forgot it or stopped doing it, you know, and you're conscious of why he's with you. Mm-hmm. And that can become a challenge with us because on a day-by-day basis in the millennial generation as us, Ebony, we're inundated every day with information. There's a new way to be a wife. There's a new way to be a husband every day online. You know what I mean? Like, where is our foundation? Where do we sink our teeth in at? Where do we sink our claws in at? Where is we're going to just, hey, this is what we're going to be. And it's different for everybody. Don't get me wrong. It's not a blanket message for everybody. But we do need sort of an outline to help us along the way, because the outline that we're getting right now online, Ebony, is so to speak, it's not good. It's ominous to say. It's dangerous. It's treacherous. You know what I mean? Because, again, this whole conversation is about KJ, AJ, Eden, Gigi, Gary. You get what I'm saying? The conversation is about the generation that you've already made up your mind about a lot of things. Your mind is already made up. Tim has already made up his mind about a lot of things. I've made up my minds about a lot of things. But our kids get an opportunity for us to build a foundational and a tradition that can stand the test of time, because we don't know what type of world we're about to live in, which is why this conversation is so prevalent to me, because if nothing else, if we go into the dark ages, or if we go into a place where we don't have these privileges anymore, don't be at odds with your family.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
That's what made me get through or not become a part of the bitter is, man, it would sure suck if I'm mad at somebody and something happened. It would suck. It would be bad. Those are the type of things from upon which regret is built. And regret is a building you can't knock down. It stays with you. It is what Paul talked about sometimes. Sometimes a thorn is just in your side, and sometimes you create another thorn too as well. And it just follows you, because regret, you can't go back and do it. You can't go back and say it. Sometimes the words you use, be careful and be mindful in the marriage of the words you use when you're talking to your mate, when you're talking to your person. Just because, and I thought, and this is where I got in trouble, just because you're not yelling doesn't mean you're not doing damage.
Right.
Doesn't mean that your posture, your gesture, how you talk to that person, the respect you have for them. Sometimes some words you can't take back, and we are not, and us, Ebony, we don't forget nothing. We may forgive you, but we don't forget nothing. And we could be unforgiving sometimes. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's partly because, Ebony, we know who we are a little bit better now. Ebony, you got a better sense of self-worth now. You brainless, but that comes with a atmosphere that was created of respect. Yeah. There won't be no disrespect. So, this is a good podcast. I'm enjoying this. It is. Because, man, I believe that, and we're going to wrap up in a minute to give people a good listen, since Zim left us out. Yeah. Zim, I'm still mad at you. But this is the conversation, Ebony, that we'll continually have. We're going to have T Green and his wife on next week. Hope they might cancel since I said that. Let me not say who's going to be on, because they might cancel too. I'm just kidding. But anyway, man, as I stated earlier, when I was dealing with it and God was dealing with me during this time, this is the conversation right here. Because families, I don't care how we get together. I don't care how it happens, Ebony. And I wanted you to have this is another reason I wanted to have you, because your family also, they didn't just stay together through flowers, happy days. It has been some close calls. Yeah. 100%.
Absolutely.
And every family got close calls. But here's the extraordinary thing. They're still together. I watch y'all never give up on your brother. I watch you lose a son. I watch your daddy go through this. That is the things that God was showing me. Your dad would text me during the time. I didn't want to hear it. Yeah. But every time he would text me, God would take me to just look how he got here. Just go back and look. And
because I'm sure he had some moments where he felt exactly like you was feeling.
Absolutely. He told me to. And I ain't going to reveal the things we talked about, but he met me at a place of difficulty that many men couldn't reach me at. Know who could. That's another thing. Know who could reach you too. God will put people in your life who could reach you, because at that time, it was hard for me to talk to y'all because y'all weren't walking through it.
Yeah.
Y'all love y'all to death. Y'all were standing right beside me, but yet y'all were so far away. Mm-hmm. It had nothing to. It just, all you could tell me if you ain't going through what I'm going through is it'll get better. But my mama been through it, so I had to talk to her. Mm-hmm. Your daddy been through it, so I had to talk to him. Mm-hmm. And it was hard to deal with. And this is why, wrapping up, having that I had a foundation. Yeah. That's the point. See, I had a family. I wouldn't have got through. There's men who's been separated and divorced that has crashed out, that won't let their wife go, that won't let it happen. You have domestic violence. You on Snap, one of my favorite shows too. I ain't want to be on Snap. I'm gonna just say it. I'm just being honest. I ain't gonna need to act righteous. I didn't want to be on Snap. I did not want to be on. No, I want to be free. But that's the point. I had family. Mm-hmm. I had people to rely on in my darkest time. That's what God was saying to me. Family. Yeah. You have a family. You have a family. And when I started utilizing my family, I started getting better. I started feeling better. I started looking better. When I closed myself, when I was isolating and alone and I thought I had the answers, then that's when things were bad, Ebony. Yeah. And that's where the world is going in the millennial generation. We're prideful, we're stubborn, we're privileged. We're going where I was, and if you don't have family by your side, I promise you how easy it was. I was nihilistic, Ebony. Life had no meaning. The only reason why I was okay is because I had a family. Mm-hmm. I thought about, man, Ebony, Don, Theo, Zim, everybody that I deal with, these people expect things out of me. These people see me a certain way, and if I fall off the cliff right now, I can't do it. And then most importantly, these 4 little girls that depend on me. So I had family. That's the only thing that got me over. Yeah. So God said, why not do that? So family is the focus. Mm-hmm. Family is the focus. And what we want to walk down the pathway through these series, Ebony, just keep focusing on family, because there's going to be people that have different situations. There's going to be people that we've never encountered that's going through situations that need family. And if we're not examples, if we're not sticking and doing the things that we need to do, this world is gonna swallow us whole as a culture. And the culture don't start with hip hop. It don't start with nothing but family. It don't start with your social club or what you created or your content. Yeah. It starts with family, Ebony. We're about to be done here in a second. I'm gonna go back home and I'm gonna work a little bit tomorrow, and I'm gonna get my girls, Ebony. Yeah. And I'm gonna enjoy my girls. You know what's healed me too? And this is God talking. Focus in on your daughters. You would say it. Focus in on your daughters. I hated it when people would say that. It irked the shit out of me. Focus on your daughters. Nigga, I know I'm going to focus on my daughters. That ain't helping me. Yeah. But it was so freaking powerful when I did, Ebony. It's almost like through them, God was just giving me life.
Absolutely. I've been there.
I know you have.
I mean, through every downfall, whether it was death, relationship, whatever, looking at KJ, because AJ wasn't there at the time, I felt like I had to be strong, because at the end of the day, there was this child who didn't choose to be here that I chose for him to be here.
For sure.
That's depending on me. And when he, at that time, looked up to me, I wanted him to see strength.
Wow.
Despite whatever was happening, I wanted him to see strength. And it goes back to what you said about family. Yeah. Where did I get my strength from for him? One, I knew I had my family. First and foremost, God. But one, I knew I had my family. So when I needed to be weak, I had people that I could be weak with. Yes. Just not with him.
Absolutely.
And, some people say your children need to see you cry. I think your children need to know that you cry.
That's good, Ebony.
I don't know if he needed to see me cry.
Yeah.
For me and for him.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I my family supported me to be able to get through it. And having that community so that you hear other voices than your own is so important. Because when all you hear is your voice.
Oh, boy. Listen, Ebony.
And
talking
you,
now. You cooking.
You start to convince yourself of things
100%.
that just aren't true.
Ebony, I had 87,234 scenarios. I was going through all of them in my head. Every scenario you could name. I mean, every scenario. Boy, when you're talking to yourself, you'll drive yourself crazy.
You will. And also, Satan traffics the mind. So
Absolutely.
he gonna slide some stuff in there.
100%. Absolutely. Oh, they don't like it? What? You start you start looking at everybody sideways. This is what, unfortunately, this is what divorce does. This is what separation does. When you're separated, it brings on these thoughts because we're meant to be one. We're meant to come together. But again, I don't look at my situation like that. I just had to rearrange the infrastructure of my family. Mm-hmm. We just do different things because that's the point. That's the hard thing that people are not going to hear. People are different. Now, they truly are. Some women don't even want to live in a house with men. Some people don't even want to be married under the same roof no more. Some people are into open relationships. I'm not saying these things are right or wrong. I'm saying this is real culture. Some people want 2-3 wives. I mean, we're living in a society where there's so many different things. But how do we navigate these things for our children when they get introduced to these things that may not be something, Ebony, that we particularly agree with? We're going to have to deal with that. It's so much. That's what I'm saying. There's so many things that introducing our kids to stuff that we don't particularly want. I'm not going to go into any of that, but I'm just saying we're hit with a lot now. Mm-hmm. And no matter how your family looks, and I'm talking to the people who are co-parenting, blended families, and because that's the real structure of how do we now keep our family tight knit and get over the stuff. Get over it. It happened. It's over with for our children. That's the next phase. So, good conversation. We're going to end it right here.
Okay.
We're going to end it right here. So we're going to pick it up soon. I appreciate you coming out. I know you're a tired boss. But we still was able to have a good conversation.
Yeah, we were.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate this. We always have this conversation. I figure the world should hear it. And we're going to have more guests, more dialogue. And we're going to ramp it up a little bit and just keep going. But y'all subscribe to us here at The Deep Surface on YouTube and Instagram. And we appreciate you coming. Tim is about to fall asleep and go back to listening to fishing podcasts. When I walked in, Tim was listening to a fishing podcast. I never knew anybody into fishing. As a matter of fact.
Is that the dude who's yelling at women? Is that him?
Who?
That ain't him, is it?
What dude? Oh, the fishing dude?
Oh.
You a feminist, ain't you? You just went right to that thing. How do we get there? I thought we were having a...
Maybe, okay, I'm thinking about the wrong person. Perhaps.
What guy you was thinking about?
Is he light-skinned or mixed looking? Oh, you mean actual fishing?
Tim, dude.
Oh, you actually fish.
Tim a fisher. Yeah, he a fisher.
I thought
he got Bass Pro Shop.
Fishing fresh or...
Fresh and fit?
Yeah, that's what I thought you was talking about.
Oh, you talking about misogynistic guys?
Yeah, those guys.
Do you think they're misogynist?